Hello, and welcome to Computer Tech and More. Today I want to talk about a bunch of my storage. So first I want to show that I have done quite a substantial amount of testing. I've tested basically every single one of my hard drives that I own or currently own and have in my possession, as well as some that I've sold or gotten rid of. Sorry about that little shaking. I was adjusting my camera. So first I want to do a follow-up to my previous video on external enclosures. Sorry, again, I'm adjusting my camera. So these are some external SSDs that I have. So I have a MyDigit OTG 256, Sabrent. Oh, it's in a Sabrent enclosure, which was what I demonstrated in my previous video, a Barracuda 120, a U-Green in the U-Green enclosure with the Barracuda 120. That's Gen 1 and Gen 2 respectively. Then the Barracuda via SATA. Then we have a Sabrent Rocket Mini 512 gigabyte. Sorry, that should be gigabyte, not terabyte. And then the Rocket Mini 1 terabyte at Gen 1 and Gen 2. So this gives you an idea of the different performance and speeds. So one of the key takeaways is that SATA and Gen 2 are basically the same. Red is sequential write, blue is sequential read. So 556 megabytes per second, and that's about the same, while at Gen 1 speeds, 419 and 415. So the MyDigit is very old. I don't even think I can find it anymore, but it was a SATA-based external enclosure that had a little Sata SSD in there. And let me see. The Barracuda here is a SATA SSD, but like a full-size 2.5-inch size one. And then the Rocket Mini is... Sorry, I did not bring it up in advance. It looks like that. So it's got a little NVMe number, and it can use the full 10 gigabit per second. And I did two tests, one at Gen 1 and Gen 2, just to demonstrate the kind of speed differences that you could see. So write was 956, and the read was 1007. So it's basically getting right up there at the full speed. So just another test. Gives you an idea of the values. And then the random, everything starts to get closer together overall. The NVMe's still pull way ahead of everything else because they're NVMe, but SATA, everything kind of closed in with one another, because the bottleneck becomes more about the chip, the driver on it, than the how fast the NAND is itself. And then this test, you can really see that it becomes more and more similar. And then I did a data copy test, and this is just me transferring a file to the device. And so this is a write test. And I didn't see much difference with the NVMe versus a SATA one, but that was just me personally. You may have different results with different models. Out there for a couple more seconds. So 471, 455, 456, 350, 293. I wouldn't recommend running this test too many times on your SATA drives, just because they have a limited number of read and writes. So take that as a caveat. Okay. So next is testing a bunch of different drives. So up here is a Vortex 4. This is a very old SSD. I'm not even sure we can find anymore. Again, every one that I can find and locate, I'll have listed in the product description. So this is a SATA, this is a SATA, and this is the product it was installed in. This was an old Asus laptop. I have an 850 Evo, an 850 Pro. These were in my desktop, an 850 Evo, a Western Digital Black NVMe 860 Evo, whatever came in my Yoga. I think that was OEM version of Samsung. The Barracuda 120, a Firecuda 120 that I used in my desktop for mass storage, game storage, the Rocket 2 terabyte, which is in my Asus laptop. This was the hard drive that came in the Asus Zephyrus 15. And it's a HD Helix, I think. And then I have an 850 Evo, or 860 Evo. That's fairly new. And all the newer SATA ones pretty much top out at 560, 550, 559, 537. And this is for sequential read and write. And the NVMe ones are just blowing them away substantially faster. Okay, go to the next graph. So if there's missing data, it's because I didn't run it for this version of the test. So I'm just missing that data, but you should still be able to see the difference. Now, one of the key things I want to note here is in my gaming desktop, I am still using this 850 Pro and 850 Evo, and I have this Firecuda. So this is for my mass storage. This is the OS, and this is a secondary storage. I just did not have a reason to go NVMe at this time, because booting up the computer and basic tasks don't see very much performance difference, but all that will change once games start being released with direct storage, so take everything with a grain of salt. At this time, though, staying with SATA is perfectly acceptable, and SATA-based SSDs are often less expensive. So this is a random test. Queue depth is 32, threads are 8. One of the interesting things is how much the performance drops in NVMe. So this just goes to show that a very good controller on even a SATA SSD can start to get close to the same performance as an NVMe drive. But of course, there are always exceptions. So like even this one's still over 1,000 megabytes per second. And then a random test. And I'm sorry I don't have data transfer tests for all of these, where I just have a select group of 3 files that are between like 10 or 5, 10, and 15 gigs. I needed such large files to deal with how fast NVMEs are. And internal drives I tend to not do the test on because I don't often have a device fast enough hooked up to it to read those speeds to get what it actually is. Excuse me. But here we are. Everything is less than 200 megabytes per second, so the NVMEs are still faster, but the read speeds are all very similar. It's write performance where you see a lot more random behavior. And again, I want to note this Firecuda from Seagate. It is just a performer for a SATA drive. It is expensive though, but notice in random performance, it almost matches an NVMe. Previous graph. So this is just a rough overview of SSDs in general and the performance of ones that I own and use, and the kind of performance that I see out of them. And my key takeaway is that SATA-based SSDs are still good and valid to use for your computer. The main advantage with going with an NVMe is space and cleanliness. I do really like that you don't need extra power cables hooked up to the NVMe's like you do the SATA ones. It really cleans up the build of a computer, but it's not the end of the world if you need to use the SATA. And NVMe has the best advantage for laptops, in my opinion, where space is limited, which allows for a thinner computer or more battery. But that's where I'm going to end this one. I'll have a follow-up video where I talk about hard drives that I own. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.